Well, welcome back to our special Campaign 28 coverage. Luba Gretchen Shirley gained national exposure when she won the right to spend federal campaign funds on child care. Now she's a Democratic candidate for Congress on Long Island. Her opponent is the entrenched and popular Republican Congressman Peter King. Some are predicting surprises in the race. CBS 2's Jennifer McLogan reports.
She's a Democratic newcomer, 37-year-old Luba Gretchen Shirley, campaigning as a working mother, trying to take down one of the country's most visible and influential Republican congressman. Peter King has been in office 25 years.
I have strong views, but I also find ways to work across the aisle to get things done for Long Island and New York. I'm running on my record. I'm proud of my record.
King has regularly trounced his opponents, but voters say nothing in politics is sacred. And Gretchen Shirley, a global economic development expert and progressive activist, says King's views on abortion, immigration, environment, and Obamacare make him vulnerable.
I am really excited. I mean, this is a game changer. What we have done, we've outraised Peter King in the last 2 quarters.
She's raised over $1.3 million from more than 5,000 donors in the past 3 months, while King raised $203,000. But he has 10 times as much to spend in the final days of the campaign. The 2nd congressional district here on Long Island is unpredictable. Voted for Obama by 4 points in 2012 and for Trump by 9 points in 2016. Among registered voters in the district, Democrats about 35%, Republicans 34%, and other nearly 29%. King brought President Trump to Long Island twice, focusing attention on MS-13. But if political winds change, could that be a liability for those now in office?
A lot of the incumbent Republicans are now vulnerable to these non-traditional candidates.
Great, I happen to like Peter King.
I think she is what Long Island needs.
I'm taking on somebody who's been in office since I was 12 years old and has consistently voted to hurt working people in our district.
At a time when the country is so divided, I think it's unusual to have a congressman who is so bipartisan.
Some political observers say it does not appear King is endangered, but Gretchen Shirley and her growing grassroots movement believe the time is ripe for a new face in Washington. From Amityville, Long Island, Jennifer McLogan, CBS 2 News.
Well, Larry, this race pits a 74-year-old, 13-term congressman against a 37-year-old woman who wants to be the next Andrea Ocasio-Cortez, the dragon slayer of longtime Washington power players. What's the chance of this ever happening?
Well, the South Shore of Long Island is a lot different than Queens. And running on a very progressive agenda is a bit of an uphill climb outside of a Democratic primary. You know, there is a blue wave out there. We don't know how big it is, but all politics, as Tip O'Neill said, is local and it's personal. And Peter King may be that example of a Republican who can carve himself into a safe place from that wave.
But see, Peter King has been saying that he's voted and had been voted the most bipartisan congressman in all of Congress for 4 years running. And Gretchen Shirley says he's a Trump sycophant. In a district that's split 50-50 from Democrats and Republicans, what's the strategy that works here?
Well, I think that strategy that King has rolled out is probably the one that'll work the best. This is what we call a quintessential swing district, even Democrat, Republican, Independent. On paper, it should be a very, very competitive race. But there are plenty of Democrats in the district who remember that Peter King voted against Bill Clinton's impeachment, that he voted for some pro-labor stuff back in the day. He was real helpful to Democratic local officials post-Sandy and post-9/11. And they're not going to lift much of a finger to help his opponent.
But see, this is also a district where taxes really count. And Congressman King made much of the fact that he voted against the Trump tax plan. How much of a role will that play in this election where he can say, I stood up to Trump and I stood for you to try to keep your taxes down?
Right. The vote against the eliminating the state and local tax deduction is what we call an inoculation. It kind of protects him from attacks that he is a Trumper, because he stood up on an issue that local people are very, very upset about.
But here's the thing. Michael Bloomberg, who has been spending over $100 million to try to flip the House to Democrats, has decided to back Peter King.
That's right.
So how much does that help Peter King, and how much does that hurt the Democrat who's trying to unseat him?
Well, anytime a guy with $100 million does a fundraiser for you, it certainly can't hurt you. Bloomberg had a very positive image on Long Island, same way Rudy Giuliani had. So being associated with a guy who's now seen as a Democrat and as a potential presidential candidate, and you're a Republican, that plays very, very well for the optics in a swing district.
And doesn't it also help that Peter King can say, I can reach across the aisle, I can make the deals, even though there's a Republican in power in the presidency?
Well, absolutely, and that's his image in the district. And in fact, Peter King just got the endorsement of Newsday, and that's a paper that tends to support Democrats. It's not as much as some people think it did. I wrote for them for many years, but an endorsement from Newsday for a Republican can make a very big difference.
Okay, well, up next, it's a swing district where the Republican incumbent is banking his success on the 800-pound gorilla. We'll explain coming up.